the mysterious arrival. The night was unusually quiet in the city, the kind of stillness that made the streets feel empty. Elias stood by the window of his small apartment, staring out into the darkened world below. The city's glow reflected off the glass, casting strange shadows across his face. It had been a long day, filled with the usual business meetings and diplomatic talks, but tonight, something felt different. Like the air itself was charged with something unexpected. He couldn't explain it. But there was a strange tension in the air. The kind that makes your skin prickle and your senses sharpen as if something was coming. Something important. He shook it off. After all, he was a diplomat. Someone used to dealing with facts and logic, not superstitions or strange feelings. But then it happened from the corner of his eye. Elias noticed something. Someone, moving fast through the alley below. At first he thought it was just another person out for a late-night walk. But as he focused, he saw that the figure was running, not walking, and they were moving with a kind of urgency that made Elias pause. He was about to turn away when the figure came to an abrupt stop right beneath his window, staring up at him. Elias felt his heart skip a beat. The figure wasn't just a person, it was a girl, but not like anyone he had ever seen. Her face was hidden in the shadows, but there was something about her that caught his attention immediately. She was taller than most women, with an odd kind of grace in the way she moved. The way she seemed to float, not run, made him question his first assumption. She was out of place here in the rough part of the city. The girl's eyes met his from below. Her eyes were a startling shade of violet, so bright they almost seemed to glow in the darkness. For a second, they locked gazes, and Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't explain it, but it was as though she was looking directly into his soul, as if she knew something about him that no one else did. Before Elias could react, the girl turned quickly, her body tense as though she had sensed something dangerous. She bolted, disappearing into the shadows of the alley with a speed Elias couldn't track. For a moment he stood frozen, unsure whether he had imagined it all. But then something strange happened. He heard footsteps outside, fast, urgent, growing louder by the second. He rushed to the door, his heart pounding in his chest. Something was wrong. He wasn't sure what, but he could feel it now. The same sense of urgency that had gripped the girl. Without thinking, he grabbed his coat and stepped into the hallway. As he turned the corner to the staircase, he saw her again. She was standing there right outside his door, but this time she wasn't running. She was panting, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. Elias froze, caught off guard. She looked nothing like the calm, composed figure he had seen earlier. Now she was a frightened girl, vulnerable in a way that didn't match the strength he had sensed in her moments before. She was staring at him, almost pleading with her eyes, like she needed something, someone, to protect her. Elias didn't know why, but something inside him made him take a step forward, a step into the unknown. Without a word, the girl rushed toward him, moving as if her life depended on it. In one swift motion, she pushed past him into the apartment, her body shaking as she slammed the door shut behind her. Elias was taken aback by her sudden movement, but before he could speak, she turned to face him. Her voice was barely a whisper, but the fear in it was unmistakable. "They're coming," she said, her words trembling. "They'll find me if I don't hide." Elias blinked, confused. Who's coming after you?" The girl's eyes darted around the room, her breath quick and shallow. She was clearly panicking, but Elias could sense that this wasn't just fear. It was pure, unadulterated terror. There was something more here, something deeper, and Elias had a sinking feeling that he had just gotten caught up in something he couldn't understand. "I can't explain," she said, shaking her head, "but they know where I am. They always find me." Before Elias could respond, there was a loud thud against the door. The girl's face went pale and her body tensed as if she was ready to run again. She backed away from the door, her hands pressed against her chest as though trying to hold herself together. Elias, still in shock, glanced around the room. He couldn't see anything out of place, but something in the air had shifted. The tension was unbearable. Another thud, louder this time. The door rattled, and Elias felt his pulse quicken. Whoever or whatever was after her, they weren't far behind. The alien girl looked at him desperately, her eyes wide with fear. "They can't know I'm here," she said, her voice barely audible. "Please, you have to help me." Elias stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing. He had no idea what was going on, but one thing was clear. The girl was in danger. A deep instinct within him kicked in. He knew he couldn't just let her face whatever was coming alone. He had to do something. He had to help. "I'm not going to let them hurt you," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The girl nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. But there was no time to waste. They had to act fast. With that, Elias grabbed his coat and moved toward the door, glancing back at the girl. She was still shaking, but there was a flicker of hope in her eyes. They didn't have much time. Whatever was after her was getting closer. As Elias opened the door, he had no idea what was waiting for them on the other side. But one thing was certain: his life and the alien girl's would never be the same again. The fear that consumes her. The door creaked shut behind Elias and the alien girl as they stood in the dimly lit apartment, a heavy silence hanging between them. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something much larger was at play, something that had drawn him into this strange, unexpected moment. The girl, still trembling, had her back pressed against the door as if she was bracing for something, or someone, to come crashing through it. Her eyes darted nervously to the small window at the end of the room, as though expecting to see something in the shadows. She had barely spoken since her frantic entry, and Elias could see the deep fear in her eyes, almost like she was waiting for a threat she couldn't escape. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt this uncertain about a situation. His usual calm demeanor, the ability to remain collected in moments of tension, seemed to have evaporated in the face of her terror. It wasn't just the girl that confused him. It was the sense of impending danger that seemed to linger in the air, thick and oppressive. Elias tried to make sense of what was happening. "Who's coming after you?" he asked again, his voice a little firmer this time. "What are you running from?" The alien girl didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned her gaze to the window again, eyes narrowed in concentration as if listening for something beyond the walls of the apartment. Elias could feel the weight of her silence pressing on him, and for a moment he wondered if she would even answer. But then in a low, almost haunted voice she spoke. "They're not human," she whispered, barely audible. "They're not like you." Elias took a step forward, trying to process the words. "What do you mean? Who are they?" The alien girl's shoulders tensed, her fear palpable as she clasped her arms around her body as if trying to hold herself together. "I don't know what they are. They don't look like anything I've seen before, but they can change, they can hide themselves. They're everywhere, and they know what I'm capable of." Elias felt his chest tighten. "What are you capable of?" he asked, his voice softening, trying to coax more information from her. She hesitated, her eyes avoiding his. Her silence spoke volumes. It was clear she wasn't ready to reveal everything, not yet. Whatever she was hiding, whatever truth she was carrying, it was something deep, something that terrified her beyond reason. "They've been chasing me for a long time," she continued, her voice growing steadier. "I escaped once, but they found me, and now they won't stop until they get what they want." Elias felt his confusion deepen. "What do they want from you?" The girl's gaze flickered to him, but she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she shook her head. "I can't explain, not yet. But you need to understand, whatever they want, it's bigger than just me. It's about everything. About your world. About your future." Elias could feel the tension growing, and it wasn't just her fear. It was something in the air around them, like an invisible force pulling at everything. The alien girl's presence felt almost like an energy, something far beyond human comprehension. Her eyes, still wide with terror, spoke of experiences and knowledge that Elias could not even begin to understand. "You said they can change. Can you tell me more about that?" Elias pressed, trying to gather as much information as he could. The alien girl closed her eyes briefly, as if searching for the right words. "They can hide in plain sight," she said, her voice laced with dread. "They look like normal people. You wouldn't know them if you saw them on the street. But they're not normal. They are something else, something that's been hidden, buried for centuries." Her words hung in the air, thick with implication. Elias wasn't sure what to make of it. He had dealt with secretive organizations, with powers that worked behind the scenes. But this was something different, something more dangerous, and for the first time, he wasn't sure he was prepared for what was coming. The girl's hand trembled slightly as she reached out, touching the surface of a table near her. She was visibly shaking now, the fear in her eyes growing stronger. Elias could see the strain in her. Whatever she had been through, it was breaking her piece by piece. I was just trying to survive, she said softly, almost to herself. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for them to come after me. But they know what I carry, and they'll stop at nothing to get it. The room felt colder now, a palpable sense of danger filling the space. Elias instinctively stepped closer, trying to offer some comfort, though he had no idea what he was dealing with. His hand hovered near hers, unsure whether he should reach out or keep his distance. But there was something about the alien girl, something in the way she looked at him, something in her vulnerability, that made him want to help her. Despite the terror and the uncertainty swirling around them, he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't let her face this alone. What do you mean? Get it? Elias asked, trying to break through the wall of fear that surrounded her. What do they want from you? Her eyes flashed with something Elias couldn't place. Anger, maybe, or just a deep, burning sense of loss. I'm the key, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm the key to stopping them, but I'm not strong enough on my own. Elias's mind spun. She was the key to stopping them, to stopping whatever force was out there hunting her. This was no longer just a matter of protecting a stranger. This was a matter of survival for both of them. He had no idea how he could help, but one thing was clear. He couldn't turn his back on her. Not now. Not when the danger was so close. Before he could say another word, there was a loud bang at the door. The alien girl froze, her eyes wide with terror. They've found me, she whispered, her voice trembling. And now they'll find you too. Elias turned toward the door, his heart racing. The sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, the threat closing in. The girl grabbed his arm, her grip tight, pleading. You have to help me, please. The weight of her plea hit Elias hard, and in that moment he knew he had no choice. Whatever was happening, whatever this girl was running from, he was in this fight now, and he would do whatever it took to keep them both safe. A past full of pain, the room was heavy with the sound of her breath, shallow and quick, as the alien girl's grip on Elias's arm tightened. The pounding at the door grew louder, more insistent. Elias glanced back toward the door, then at the girl standing before him, her eyes wide with fear. She was trying to stay calm, but the tremble in her voice betrayed her. The terror she felt wasn't just the fear of being caught. It was something deeper, something far older than the chase that had led her here. Elias reached out, touching her arm gently, trying to steady her. We need to talk, he said, his voice firm but not unkind. He didn't want to push her, but there was something he had to understand. Before they come for us, you need to tell me what's going on. I can't help you unless I know the truth. The alien girl looked at him for a moment, her eyes searching his face as if weighing whether she could trust him. The pause stretched out between them, the noise from the door growing louder still. She seemed to hesitate, torn between the need to hide and the desire to confide in him. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and pained. They're not just after me, she said, her voice trembling. They're after everything. My people, my planet, everything I've ever known. She paused, looking down at her hands as though seeing the weight of her words for the first time. It all started long before I came to Earth. Elias remained quiet, waiting for her to continue. He could feel the tension in the air, thick and charged, but he knew this was the moment when everything would change. He had to know what had brought her here, what she was running from. Tell me everything, Elias said gently, his voice quiet but insistent. I'll listen. She nodded slowly, taking a deep breath as she looked up at him. Her eyes, once filled with fear, were now clouded with something else, something darker. She seemed lost in the memories she was about to share, as if reliving them in real time. I come from a planet called Nephra, she began. It was a beautiful world full of life, but it wasn't always peaceful. Like Earth, Nephra was a place of great conflict filled with divisions between our people. There were factions, groups that fought over power, over resources, over the future of our species. But there was one group, one that wanted more than just power. They wanted control. Elias could see that telling this story wasn't easy for her. Her voice wavered slightly, but she pushed forward. They called themselves the Charek, she continued. They were an ancient group, formed generations ago, but they became more powerful when they discovered the source of our planet's energy. It wasn't just a physical source, it was something spiritual, something that connected us all. The Charek wanted to harness it. They believed that if they controlled the energy of our planet, they could reshape the universe itself. Elias blinked, trying to process what she was saying. The idea of controlling the energy of an entire planet seemed impossible. But there was a conviction in her voice that made it clear she wasn't just telling a story. She was recounting the reality of her people's downfall. They managed to harness the power, she said softly. But it didn't work the way they thought it would. The energy wasn't something that could be contained or controlled. It was a force that connected everything, the land, the people, even the animals. When they tried to manipulate it, they shattered the balance of Nephra. The planet began to die. Our skies darkened, our crops failed, our people grew sick. And the Cherek, they didn't care. They only wanted more power. The destruction of our world was nothing compared to the control they could have over the galaxy. Elias felt a pang in his chest as he listened to her. This wasn't just some far-off story. This was real. It was her reality, her past, her pain. She was telling him about the fall of her planet, the loss of everything she had known, and the relentless pursuit of power by a group that had no regard for the destruction they caused. I tried to stop them, she continued, her voice growing softer, but I wasn't strong enough. The Cherek had become too powerful. They took everything, my family, my friends, my home. They destroyed my world, and when I tried to fight back, when I tried to warn others, they marked me. They made me their enemy, and now, they'll stop at nothing to find me. The alien girl's eyes became distant, as if the weight of her words was too much to carry. Elias could see the pain in her eyes, the deep grief that had driven her to run, to hide, to trust a stranger she had just met. I came here to Earth, hoping I could hide long enough to find a way to stop them, she whispered. But they found me, and now they're coming for you too. Elias felt the gravity of her words sink in. He had known that her fear was real, but now he understood just how much was at stake. The Cherek weren't just after her. They were after Earth. They wanted to control not just her, but everything. I won't let them take you, Elias said, his voice firm and steady. We'll figure this out. We'll stop them together. The alien girl looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of disbelief and hope. You don't understand, she said softly. You don't know what they're capable of. They can make you forget. They can make you believe anything. They've done it before and they'll do it again. If they catch me, if they control me. Her voice trailed off, the fear returning to her eyes. Elias stepped forward, closing the distance between them. He didn't know how or even if they could stop the Cherek, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. Tell me what to do, he said. I'll help you. Whatever it takes. The alien girl nodded, her grip on his arm loosening slightly as the tension in her shoulders began to fade. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this fight. The hidden truth. The air in the apartment felt thick now, charged with the weight of everything that had been revealed. Elias stood in front of the alien girl, who was now sitting on the edge of the worn sofa, her body stiff with both fear and exhaustion. The room was dim, lit only by the faint light from a street lamp outside. The world outside seemed oblivious to the gravity of what was unfolding inside. But Elias felt the full weight of the girl's words pressing on him. She had revealed so much already. The destruction of her world, the relentless pursuit of the Cherek, their ability to manipulate reality, and the truth that she held the key to stopping them. But there was more to the story, more to the hidden truth that she had yet to share. Elias could feel it, like a puzzle that was only halfway complete with pieces still missing. The girl's gaze was distant, her mind clearly trapped in the painful memories of her past. Elias knew she was struggling, but there was something she hadn't said yet, something that had to be the key to everything. The silence between them stretched on, heavy with unspoken words. Tell me more, Elias said softly, his voice gentle, yet persistent. What's the truth you haven't told me? Why are they after you? What do you mean by controlling reality? She looked at him then, her violet eyes locking onto his, and for a moment Elias thought he saw something like fear flicker in them. She opened her mouth to speak, but closed it again, as if the words were caught in her throat. Elias could see her struggle, but he remained patient, waiting for her to decide if she was ready to reveal the rest of the truth. The truth is worse than you can imagine, she said finally, her voice shaking slightly. The Cherek aren't just trying to control me. They've been manipulating entire civilizations, not just mine, for centuries. They're not just a group of conquerors. They're something older, something that exists beyond time itself. And they've been hiding in plain sight. controlling the course of history, making sure no one ever discovers the truth. Elias felt his heart skip a beat. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a battle for the very essence of reality itself. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of what she was saying. You're telling me that these beings have been controlling history, altering the world in ways we don't even know about? She nodded solemnly. Yes, the Cherek have the power to manipulate the fabric of reality, Elias. They can create false memories, rewrite history, change the way people think. It's not just about physical control. It's about controlling perception. They've been doing it for generations. They've used their abilities to shape the past, so people don't remember what really happened. They control the future by controlling what people believe. Elias stared at her, his mind reeling. It was hard to believe, impossible even. But the sincerity in her voice and the fear in her eyes told him she wasn't lying. She believed every word she said, and the more he listened, the more he began to believe her too. But how? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How could they control something like that? How could anyone have that kind of power? The power comes from the energy source of my planet Nephera, she replied. It's not just a physical resource. It's a cosmic force, a connection to the very fabric of existence itself. The Cherek learned how to tap into that energy, to manipulate it, and over time they learned how to use it to reshape reality. They can create entire false histories, make people forget things that were once true, and even control the way individuals think and behave. They can make people see things that aren't there, hear voices that don't exist, and believe in lies that are as real as anything else. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. It was one thing to fight a war of politics or power, but what she was describing went far beyond anything he had ever faced. This was a war against perception itself. The Cherek weren't just hiding in the shadows. They were manipulating reality, rewriting it to fit their own agenda. They've been doing this for centuries, she continued, her voice growing darker. And they've gotten so powerful that they can make entire civilizations forget their past. They've erased the memory of wars, of struggles, of the truth. They've rewritten history to suit their needs, and no one even knows. They've been controlling what humanity believes, making sure the world stays in their grasp. Elias's mind was spinning. This was bigger than anything he had ever encountered. The idea of manipulating perception, controlling entire populations without them even realizing it, it was terrifying. He had spent his life working with the powerful elite of Earth, negotiating with world leaders, making decisions that shaped history. But what if everything he knew was a lie? What if the history he had studied, the decisions he had helped shape, were all influenced by the Cherek? Are you saying that they've been controlling the world all along? Elias asked, his voice thick with disbelief. That they've been controlling human history, shaping it to fit their agenda. The alien girl's gaze darkened. Yes, and they've been using humans to do it. They've infiltrated governments, corporations, and organizations. They've placed their people in positions of power, where they can shape the world's future. They've been preparing for something bigger, and I'm the only one who can stop them. Elias felt his stomach tighten. This was no longer just about an alien girl running from a group of powerful beings. This was about the fate of humanity itself, about whether the world would continue to live under the control of these shadowy figures or break free from their manipulation. Why me? Elias asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why am I involved in this? The alien girl met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of desperation and hope. Because you're the only one who can see the truth. You're the only one who isn't blinded by their lies. You're the only one who can help me gather the pieces of the puzzle, help me find the key to stopping them before they succeed. For a moment, Elias was silent, his mind racing. This wasn't just about protecting one person anymore. This was about protecting everything. The truth, the past, the future, everything was at stake. He took a deep breath, looking at the alien girl, now fully aware of what he had to do. There was no turning back. Whatever had drawn him into this fight, whatever destiny had placed him at this crossroads, he knew that his life would never be the same again. I'm with you, he said, his voice resolute. Whatever it takes, I'll help you. The first encounter, the room was still, but the tension between them was palpable. The weight of everything the alien girl had just revealed hung heavy in the air. Elias stood by the window, trying to make sense of the impossible truth she had shared. The manipulation of history, the control of reality, and the cosmic forces that were now after them. Outside, the city was quiet, unaware of the storm that was slowly gathering. The alien girl, though, could feel it. She had known from the moment they had met that they were being hunted, but now, as the minutes ticked by, that certainty had turned into something more ominous. Something had shifted, and it wasn't just the tension in the air. Elias had noticed it too. The noise from outside had grown fainter, replaced by an eerie silence. The city, normally bustling with life, seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, the alien girl's eyes narrowed and her body tensed. Elias turned toward her, sensing the change. She had been calm before, though guarded, but now she was on high alert. Her shoulders were stiff, and her gaze flickered to the door, then to the window, scanning every corner of the room. "They've found us," she said, her voice a sharp whisper. Elias's heart skipped a beat. He had been expecting this, but hearing it out loud made it real. The danger they had been running from was no longer a distant threat. It was here, at their doorstep. He had no idea who or what they were running from, but he trusted the alien girl's instincts. She was frightened, but there was more than fear in her eyes. There was a resolve that Elias recognized. Before he could say anything, there was a loud knock at the door, followed by a voice, smooth but cold. "We know you're in there," the voice said. "We can't let you hide forever." Elias froze. The voice was calm, detached, as if the speaker already knew they would win. But there was something in the way they spoke, something that made Elias's blood run cold. These weren't ordinary people. This wasn't just a matter of protecting one person. The stakes were higher than that. The Charrick had found them. The alien girl's eyes locked onto Elias's, her expression intense. "They're here. They'll come for me, and they'll destroy anyone in their way." Elias moved quickly, his mind racing. He had to think. He had to act. The knock on the door came again, louder this time, followed by a harsh voice. "Open the door or we'll make you." The alien girl moved swiftly, her movements graceful and precise. She reached for a small device hidden in her sleeve, something Elias hadn't noticed before. As she pressed a button, a low hum filled the room, and suddenly, the apartment's walls seemed to shimmer. It wasn't just a force field, it was a protective barrier, one designed to shield them from whatever was coming. Elias watched in awe as the air around them seemed to change. Like the very atmosphere had shifted, becoming denser, heavier. The hum grew louder for a moment, then stopped abruptly, and the room returned to normal. But Elias felt it, the change. The alien girl had activated something far beyond human technology, something that only she could understand. This was her world, her power, and he was just learning how to survive in it. She turned to him, her face a mixture of determination and worry. "They'll try to break through," she said, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "I need you to trust me. We can't stay here. We need to move now." Elias nodded without hesitation. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't let her face it alone. They had no time to waste. The sound of the door being slammed against was followed by an ominous silence. They were inside, and it was only a matter of time before they would find a way through the barrier. "Where do we go?" Elias asked, his voice calm despite the rising panic inside him. "We'll head to the underground," the alien girl replied quickly. "It's the only place we'll be safe for now. But we have to move fast. They're already tracking us." Without another word, they made their way to the back of the apartment where a hidden doorway stood, concealed behind a set of bookshelves. The girl moved quickly, pressing a button on the wall that caused the shelves to slide open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Elias hesitated for a moment, but the girl didn't wait. She was already halfway down the stairs, her figure disappearing into the shadows below. He followed her, taking the steps two at a time. The staircase felt like it was stretching on forever, the only sound the hurried echo of their footsteps. They reached the bottom, and as Elias stepped into the underground passage, he realized just how far they had descended. The air was cooler here, damp with the scent of earth and age. "There's a network of tunnels beneath the city," the alien girl explained, her voice now steady despite the danger that still hung over them. "This is where we'll be safe. For now." Elias looked around, trying to adjust his eyes to the dim light. The tunnels were old, and their walls were lined with strange markings, symbols he didn't recognize, symbols that didn't belong to any language he had ever seen. "They're not just after me," the alien girl continued, her voice softening as she spoke. "They're after you too. You're involved now, Elias. You've seen too much, and that makes you a target. Elias's stomach twisted. He had known this was coming, but hearing it from her made it real. The danger wasn't just something out there, it was here, now in his life. He had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Then I'll fight with you, Elias said, his voice firm. We'll stop them together. The alien girl looked at him, a flicker of something. Maybe gratitude or something deeper, shining in her eyes. I'm glad you're with me, she said quietly. But the real fight is just beginning. Elias nodded. He didn't know what he was walking into, but one thing was certain. Whatever it was, he was no longer just a spectator. This was his fight now, too. The first encounter with the Charek had left them both shaken, but they had survived it. And for the first time since the alien girl had entered his life, Elias felt something other than fear. He felt a surge of determination, a promise to himself that he wouldn't let the world fall into the hands of these dark forces. Not if he could help it. A dangerous alliance. The underground passage was narrow, the walls damp with the weight of years. The flickering light from the alien girl's device illuminated the path ahead, casting strange, elongated shadows on the tunnel walls. Elias couldn't help but feel that they were moving deeper into a world he had never known, one where ancient secrets and dangers lurked just out of sight. The hum of the city above them felt distant, as if they had crossed into another realm entirely. The alien girl led the way, her pace steady, but Elias could sense her unease. She wasn't just worried about the Charek catching up to them. There was something more. Something that weighed on her. Something that she wasn't ready to share yet. Elias could feel it, an unspoken tension in the air, but he didn't push her. He had learned over the past few hours that this was a world that didn't operate by human rules. Trust was earned, not given freely. We're not safe here for long, the alien girl said quietly, her voice echoing off the tunnel walls. We have to move quickly and find the next location. I have a contact who can help us. Elias glanced at her. A contact? Who? The alien girl hesitated for a moment before answering. Someone I trust. They can provide us with information about the Charek, about the history they've hidden. They know where the key is hidden. The key? Elias asked, his curiosity piqued. What key? The key to ending this, she said, her voice filled with an urgency Elias hadn't heard before. The Charek's power comes from their ability to manipulate perception. But there's a way to stop them. There's a way to break their hold on reality itself, and that key is hidden somewhere. We just need to find it before they do. Elias felt a surge of determination. Everything she had told him so far had been difficult to process, but one thing was clear. The Charek weren't just a threat to her. They were a threat to everything. To humanity. To the very fabric of reality itself. And now he was part of it. He didn't know what he was getting into, but he knew he couldn't back down. What do we do once we find it? Elias asked, his mind already racing ahead. How do we stop them? The alien girl stopped walking and turned to face him. Her violet eyes were intense, glowing faintly in the dim light. We expose them. We show the world what they've been hiding. We reveal the truth, and once people know, their power over reality will crumble. The Charek have been manipulating history for centuries. They've made humanity forget the truth. But if we can uncover it, we can break their control. Elias felt a rush of clarity. He had spent his career as a diplomat negotiating and solving conflicts, but this was a different kind of battle. It wasn't about politics or diplomacy anymore. It was about survival, about uncovering a truth so powerful it could change everything. As they walked deeper into the tunnels, the weight of the alien girl's words began to settle in. There was no turning back now. Elias was in this for better or worse. He couldn't walk away, not when the stakes were this high. They moved in silence for a while, the only sounds their footsteps echoing in the cold, damp tunnel. The air grew heavier, colder, the further they went. It was as if the very walls of the tunnel were closing in around them. Elias could feel the tension building in the air, a sense of dread that made his skin prickle. They weren't alone down here. A sudden noise broke the silence, a distant echoing sound of footsteps. Elias froze, instinctively reaching for the small weapon the alien girl had given him. He had never fired a gun in his life, but it didn't matter now. He didn't need to be a soldier to understand that the danger they were in was real. They were being hunted. They're here, the alien girl whispered, her eyes scanning the tunnel. We have to keep moving. They can't find us yet. Elias could see the fear in her eyes now, the raw, unfiltered terror that had been buried beneath her calm exterior. Whatever she had been through, whatever these beings were, it had left scars. Deep, invisible scars. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the future, for the world she had once known. They quickened their pace, the echoes of footsteps growing louder. Elias could hear the faint hum of something else now, a strange, almost electronic sound like a signal. The alien girl reached for a small device at her waist, pressing a button that caused the walls to shift and open into another hidden passage. She motioned for Elias to follow, and he didn't hesitate. He was starting to trust her more than he ever thought possible. As they moved through the new passage, Elias's mind raced. Who were these people chasing them? How had they managed to infiltrate so many aspects of the world without anyone noticing? And why was the alien girl so important to them? They turned a corner, and suddenly the passage opened up into a small, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with more symbols, more ancient markings that Elias couldn't understand. At the far end of the room there was a table covered in holographic maps and scattered papers. "There it is," the alien girl said, her voice low with anticipation. Elias stepped closer, his eyes scanning the room. This was where they would make their stand. This was where the truth would be revealed. The table was filled with pieces of the puzzle that could bring down the Charok, and with it their stranglehold on reality. But as Elias stepped closer, he could feel something else, a sense of foreboding. It was as if they had walked right into a trap. The walls felt like they were closing in on them again. Just then, the door behind them slammed shut with a deafening crash. Elias whipped around, his heart racing. There, standing in the doorway, were the figures of two men, tall, their faces obscured by shadow, their movements smooth and calculated. They weren't just human. They were the Charok, and they had found them. "We've been waiting for you," one of them said, his voice as cold and calculating as the silence that followed. The alien girl stepped in front of Elias, her eyes narrowed in defiance. "This ends now,"